You have tuned into the ATKT Talent 10 podcast with me, P-Man.
And I'm Krupa.
The Queen of Facts.
Today we're talking about side hustles for college students, and we have the best person to talk to about this. We've got Priyanka Paul. Priyanka is a student at St. Xavier's College, and she's an illustrator / poet. Priyanka, now that you're here, you have to do a poem for us.
Cool, I'd love to.
Hi, Priyanka.
Hi. You will find news about wars on the first page of your daily newspaper. In Times New Roman, bold black and red with graphic imagery. Or pixelized velvety red blood stamped across unnamed faces. Sing a song for them. Go on. I'm sorry, art and music can heal a lot of things, but not this. War is more page 3 news. It's women and men, mostly men, in shiny, dazzling coats of velvet and fine silk, who sit in rooms with air conditioning and fancy crystal chandeliers, scented with orange blossoms and roses, who have more money than the number of etched scars on the bodies of soldiers, who swirl around glasses of sangria and spill wine and break glasses as they please, like the blood of fallen soldiers across broken land. Wars have their own paparazzi, with cameras. I'm afraid they place those reflectors in the wrong places. I'm afraid you're watching a TV show. I'm afraid they're showing you the political showstoppers. I'm afraid they're not showing you the army faux pas. Bullet wounds don't make for fashion statements. Marie Antoinette made it easy. Simple analogy. She said if they don't have bread, give them cake. So rich men on thrones robbed us of our betterment and then gave us in abundance national entitlement. So basically, you've got an empty stomach to account for, but be happy. Someone won a war. See, the rich see in colors. They see velvet reds, luscious violets and matte blacks. Not crushed green and bloody scarlets and cut flesh. So they commission war-like paintings. You know, if they only sold a false sense of nationalism as paint. See, these rich people, they sit in glass structures called parliaments and they scream and screech to reach consensus. I'm sorry, but the only thing louder is still gunfire and crash defenses. See, the bureaucracy sits in spacious rooms. Sometimes they sit around on pillows, get a feel of the army bunker. And they talk about people they've only heard about, like fairy tales. See, now war might look great in a textbook or the Prince of Wales, not on the buried tombs with soiled flags. Within them, bodies torn apart, skulls broken, eyes gouged out, bruised beyond recognition, so that some men could boast of a triumphant nation. War should never be an option.
Priyanka, that was a very, very intense piece of poetry. What is the name of that piece?
It's called War is Not an Option.
Have you performed this piece before?
Not really, no, I haven't. Because I do not perform a lot. I'm a better writer than I'm a performer. Yeah.
So it means you are primarily a artist / graphic designer, graphic illustrator.
Yeah, I'm predominantly an illustrator and I write poetry. I perform sometimes, just not. I'm not a slam poet. No one calls me that. Yeah.
So, do you make money off your art? I'm sure you do.
Yes. One of the reasons probably that I've been doing it for so long is probably that eventually I started getting paid somewhere along the line. I've been illustrating for 3 years now. I started when I was 17 and it has grown and become better, and I can finally consider doing it as a lifetime profession. Yeah.
So, how did you learn it yourself, or how did you start making your art?
Right, so I'm completely self-taught. I still draw on this old Samsung Galaxy Note 3, which is like, there's a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 right now out, but like it's a super old phone. It comes with a stylus, and that's what I still draw on. And sometimes people are really fascinated by that fact because it's a phone, firstly, and you walk into like these really, like I've worked on ads, right, like animation stuff that's gone on television, so it has to be really great quality. And I've gone into their studios and they make me sit down and they're like, do you need a laptop? Because they can't see a laptop on me. And I just whip out my phone and I'm like, no, I'm going to draw on this. But so I'm completely self-taught. I didn't go to art school. I've been in, I'm in Xavier's. I'm studying mass media. And yeah, I've just figured out my own. The software that I use is not the regular Photoshop or Illustrator. It's a software called Medibank Paint, and it's a software that's not widely used because it's a software that's been used mainly for drawing manga, stuff like that. So it's not well known. But I chanced upon it once, and I've just been using that. You can do a lot of stuff on it. You just have to figure out how it works.
So I have a friend who is right now interning at this corporate house doing graphic designing and all. Did you do any internship of sorts anywhere, or directly started raking in the monies?
I haven't interned anywhere at all. Yeah.
So now this your side hustle started from
my side hustle started from just wanting to do something I really like. I've always been drawing ever since I was really young. But obviously now with technology, traditional art isn't really the way to go. Everything is digital. So I started out with, so on my phone, how I started out drawing is you draw on a notebook and you can just take a picture of it, put it onto your, on your phone software, the software that I use, and draw on top of it, right? So that way, which is what a lot of professional art, bigger artists as well have been doing, who learn Photoshop. Is what they do is they draw on paper, they scan that, and then their work process starts. I just found a simpler way to do that without having a scanner or Photoshop or a laptop. And that's the point over here, that you do not need the best equipment in town, you don't need the best softwares, you don't need anything. You just have to have it in your head that you want to do something, and you will find a way to do it.
Wow. So I don't know anyone who's a self-taught artist, and I think that's really inspiring. P-Man, what did you do in your, when you were in college and, back in the days when the dinosaurs were still,
Hi, Rabba. Back in my days, there was no, at least amongst my friend circle, there was no such concept of interning. I know most of my friends went to each summer vacation, at least, was spent going to the gym or going to learn swimming or driving. I would meet up with my bandmates and we would try and write new material, write new songs, or record in studios, because that's the only time all of us could meet. It was a different type of hustle for us back in those days. And it's amazing. But what are your views on internships? Is it of any use?
Personally, they haven't really appealed to me. There are places I would like to intern, but then I've already got my own thing. And I'd rather, invest more into what I'm doing because I see potential in it. And personally, if you don't see potential in yourself, you're not really going to go anywhere. And so the thing is, so my college actually has a policy where you're supposed to do an internship. They really recommend doing one at least. But the thing is, all through that time, I was doing freelancing projects with really big companies. And I didn't have the time to be, doing internships because if you're, I don't want to sound like a snob, but if you're at a certain level, why would you do an internship job?
How do you explain that to the management in college?
They actually understood because I've illustrated for, I've done a campaign with Gucci recently. I illustrated for their report recently. They launched a millennial report. I'm one of the illustrators for that. I worked with the Malala Fund. So I've worked with really big brands, and I'm super lucky to have gotten these opportunities at such a young age. But yeah, I've been busy doing all of those things as well. Yeah, so I never got the time to do internships, but I believe they are cool and they teach you a lot of things.
Swag. Krupa, what were you doing in summer vacations in colleges?
I just found, I'm so boring compared to both of you. I didn't really do internships at all because honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do, which doesn't make sense because internships are literally the point of internships is so that you figure out what you want to do, right? Or you don't want to do. So I used to take a lot of workshops. I used to go for a lot of writing workshops or theater workshops, and that's how I learned a few things that I do now. That was my side hustle, I guess.
Priyanka, did you go to any of these art workshops?
Not really. So my parents aren't the typical Indian parents who are I send my kids for dance class and football and all that. My parents didn't give a shit for a really long time. They're not necessarily people who pushed me to do something, which is why I'm also very proud of all the things that I've done because I've done them on my own will. No one really pushed me for that. When I wanted to go to art school, my parents said no. So
whoa. I can relate to that.
And I also I had circumstances at home, like my mom's not well, so I couldn't possibly go out. Like I wanted to go to Shrishti. If anywhere in India to art school would be Shrishti, and that was in Bangalore. And my mom during my 12th standard, my mom had a brain stroke and she was paralyzed. And you can't just get out of your house, right? Your mom just did that. There's so much guilt attached to it. So I stayed. I went to Xavier's because I also topped the minority list for getting into Xavier's, and my parents didn't even know that I had applied.
Oh.
So yeah, I had to do a lot of things on my own at a very young age. So it's kind of I just had to learn to fend for myself. Yeah.
Wow, that side hustle takes me back to. So back in my days, I joined a band in college when I quit engineering and came back to arts. And I hid the fact that I was playing for bands and doing music from my folks. I used to tell them I'm going to just jam with friends in my colony. When I used to take my guitar, go all the way from Andheri to Bandra. Back in those days, take a bus.
Andheri to Bandra.
Buy BST bus, get off at National College, walk all the way till the Mehboob Studios where my bass guitar teacher was. And that's how I learned. And the only way they found out I did music was when my band won the first iRock band competition, and they put our photographs in the Times of India page 2 in 2001. And my grandmother opened a paper and she's like, "What did you do? Why your photo is in the paper?" I'm like, "No, we won a competition." And then the first thing my mom said is, "That's why you left engineering, for music."
And nothing else, no congratulations, no
nothing, man, no.
My work gets featured very often in newspapers or magazines, and my family gets to know about it. My grandmother sees it and she'll be super exuberant. She'll be so happy, "Oh my god, my granddaughter's in the newspapers." Then she'll read it, and then she just comes up to me and my dad, and she feels so entitled to ask him why she's talking about menstruation, because I menstruate. But yeah, there's this whole struggle that I have to deal with, how you deal with family when you start becoming a public figure.
When did you start making money off your art? I'm sure in the beginning people would say that, you're fresh to this
right.
exposure.
Who will take a 20-year-old seriously?
I started illustrating when I was 17. Yeah, so that was even... Yeah, so early on, I did a lot of work that was free, a lot of work that was severely underpaid. I still continue to do that because I don't really have a manager yet, so I don't really know how the industry works, especially as a 20-year-old woman or as a young woman who especially doesn't come from a design background. I didn't go to art school, so they think they can make more of a fool of you. I think it's difficult to navigate, especially when it comes from, the clients you choose, the money you make and all of that. But I did start working when I was 17. I did a bunch of illustrations for magazines, for brands, logos, stuff like that. Started out like that.
There must have been some work, proud of. I want to hear about that. Getting bullied into doing it in your teens.
So a lot of the work that I do, as I said before, is a lot of my personal work is social justice themed, stuff like that. So I choose brands that, resonate with those kind of ideologies as well. I did this whole menstruation series in collaboration with this brand called Boond that makes menstrual cups. And I really love that work that I made for them. I did this sunflower drawing that I did that has gone viral on Tumblr. It gets shared across the world without me getting credited. I made that in collaboration with a singer called Clay from the USA. And yeah, so I've worked with a lot of artists. I've collaborated a lot. Yeah.
Man, this reminds me of this one long back in Delhi in 2004, I want to say. After one show, we came no later, he's a model coordinator, came up to us and said that, "Hey, we are looking for some rock guys for this one photo shoot." Exactly.
Rock guy, pattar.
From the rock.
Long hair,
from
looking menacing.
Pattar aadmi.
So they took all of us for this one shoot, and there was supposed to be this one lady who's a model, and we are supposed to be the props behind her. It's really stupid. But then it turns out that lady, then 2 years down the line, became Miss India. And you know who she is right now? I found out last year. She's Mrs. Kunal Nair.
Who?
Kunal Nair? Kutrapali from Big Bang Theory?
Oh, right.
His wife, we modeled with her. We were the props in her, a shoot with her. We didn't get paid, but I guess some exposure.
Well,
I hope
no, that's a scam. Exposure is the biggest scam on the planet. And I don't know if other professions have to face it as much as artists. like all kinds of artists do, but we get told so often that do this for exposure, we'll give you exposure. And now, I mean, and their pages don't even have as much engagement, so you're not really getting any exposure. I recently had to deal with this thing where I designed something for like a big artist. I don't know if I can name them.
Name it.
Okay, so this was Nuclear doing some concert in the Jumeirah Palms in Dubai.
All right.
So you can imagine how much he's getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was doing this in collaboration with a friend called Rushil Bhatnagar, and so I obviously I'm an established illustrator now. I'm going to give myself that credit, and so we stayed up the whole night doing this artwork, and in the morning, Rushil is like 2.5k mangunga main iska, and I'm like, what? My starting rates are 10k, like even for like small time illustration, because I charge international clients more. Because that's how we should do it, because white people have more appreciation for money, basically.
For good reason.
For good reason also. And I don't mind. And they don't personally mind paying you that much. You know, it's so nice. So anyway, I was just like, no, my even like for small work like this, my starting is 10k. I'm not going below that. So we asked for 10k. They're like, our budget is 5k. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having a budget that low for someone that big?
Did they know who you were before they approached you?
No, I don't think so. They didn't know.
Okay,
that.
because I know the people from Nuclear's management, and they pay well and they pay industry rates, so they probably didn't know who you were. For them, it was like we're giving college to the chance.
Yeah, so they probably they spoke to the guy, and he's just like college this. So so I was just like, I mean, do you not know who I am? I'm sorry, I don't work for these rates anymore. And anyway, so they were like, okay, we'll pay you 7. We'll pay 7. 2k we are giving from our own pockets. And this one got like super flattered, like, oh my god, they're giving us 7.
Between the two of you,
yeah,
7.
so it was 3.5. And I was like, okay, you know what, whatever. I'm not doing this for myself. Like, I don't personally care about Nuclear or making a poster for Nuclear. I'm coming off as such a fucking snob on this. Anyway.
It's all good, man.
Anyway, yeah, so we did it, and then I asked for credits beforehand only. I want credits for that, because firstly we compromised on getting paid how much we wanted, and obviously you credit us properly, right? But they didn't. They just like tagged us on a random picture, which makes no sense. And I was like, I want it written over there, art by Priyanka and Rushil. And the person who we were coordinating with had the audacity to tell us that this is the service industry. You either get paid or you get mentioned. And I was like, what? And I texted back that I've been in this industry for 3 years. I think I know how shit works. So yeah, and then they gave us credits. But the thing is, a lot of artists don't ask for these things. And no one has told us that we need to be fighting for these things. We constantly get underpaid and never mentioned. And I feel like we've been thought, because we're scared of these people. They're obviously big people. And they treat artists like shit. So, I mean, all of us have been taught to just shut up about it. I, for one, I'm extremely privileged to be having this audience that I have, where I can talk about these things and people will acknowledge that. And so I use that. But a lot of people do not have that opportunity to have someone hear them out, you know, and have someone, like, if I put this out on social media, people will be angry. Yeah, so I feel like we need to keep taking steps. Like, even similarly, like the friend who I was working with Rushil, he did something else with them, and they didn't like the design, so they got someone. They canceled the project with him. They got someone who made exactly the same thing that he did with just a little bit changes. That's copying, right? They didn't credit him. They didn't pay him like a little bit of money for what the work he did, and they treat college students like that. Because they know they can exploit college students. They're already gonna offer you little to no money. And on top of that, they're gonna take you for granted. So you gotta like be tough with them. Don't take shit from these people, at least. Yeah.
So how does someone who's starting out with their art, how do they navigate through this?
So I think it's important, really important. Personally, I really wished I did this earlier. Is to research what industry prices are. So go from like artists over here to an increased level. How much are they charging? How much are they charging per project? And for a little while, say when you're starting out, say 6 months, it's okay to be doing work for a little lesser money. Maybe you just want to see where all you can go, what are topics you can illustrate about, where your creativity can go, right? getting opportunity is also important. So maybe you can do that for a little while, but you don't need to continue it, and and obviously I recommend getting paid from the beginning. Because if you don't personally value your work, others are going to see through that, and they're not going to value your work either.
Your Instagram page is popping and huge. What advice you want to give to artists starting out on building up their Instagram game?
So I didn't necessarily follow any pattern to make my Instagram big. My theory with making art or just being on a platform like Instagram is to be true to yourself and to be putting out work that's you. So when I started getting famous, it goes to your head and you start seeing what thing gets more liked, what has more engagement, and that can affect you. Because at the end of the day, we're all people pleasing in ways. But I realized that and this is one really important mantra that I tell myself: don't go looking for an audience will come find you. So I've always made art with things that I know are important to me, that mean something to me, and it's not just stuff because it will get liked. Because right now, feminism has become a trend, right? You can make anything that's feminist and people will throw their likes and money at it. But if that kind of feminism has no narrative, we are feeding to like this basic white girl feminism. That's not me, and I believe in learning and growing. So my art to me is this whole, it's a cycle of growth. You can see how I've grown as a person if you look at my art. So that's what I try to do best. I'm just gonna say that if you're an artist and you're making art, just be true to yourself and make things that appeal to you. Yeah.
Whoa. Krupa, do you want to tell people tuning in about what all they can do side hustles?
So, yes, first of all, if you're a college student, then so ATKT always has like space for you. You can always come hang out with us.
Intern with us.
Lots.
We pay interns as well.
We do pay interns. We love working with talented college kids, and we love talking to them, as you can see. So yeah, if you've got something to say, you know what, just shoot an email to us, and we would love to talk to you. Otherwise, I'm sure you've heard of like Internshala and Frap and what else was it, P-Man?
Bookmyintern.com.
I
don't know, I'm just saying there must be a bookmyintern.com.
Bookmyintern. That's so shady though.
or Krupa will find you at a gig and she will say hi, and yeah.
Or you can find Krupa at a gig. She'll stand out literally.
What?
No, she won't actually. She'll just come and say hi.
She stands out.
She came and said hi to me. And that's how I know her.
That's okay. A very nice, polite way to put it. Not creepy at all. Paul.
Okay, but you said hi. What can I do in that?
Krupa, a queen of facts, has a fact for us. Krupa, what is this fact? Give us this fact. Give us the gyan.
Well, while we love side hustles, NIT Kurukshetra is not exactly fond of, creative endeavors. So if you're a student at NIT Kurukshetra in UP, please don't gate crash weddings because they've got a legal notice, and just don't do that. In fact, I read that there's a shadi hall around there who make the caterers there make food for 100 more people, because they anticipate like hostile students coming in.
That's so sweet though.
Crashing. Yeah.
But also, I love how gate crashing is a side hustle.
It's a talent, okay?
Hey.
Oh, okay. Does ATKT support it? Will you give them food?
Absolutely.
Back in my days, we used to play at this one dingy place called Raz Rhino in Juhu. It's not dingy anymore. It's pretty...
it's fancy now.
Upper society. But back in the day, it was really dingy. And our metal gigs would go on inside the club, and the lawns outside, sometime during wedding season, would have weddings. And there were these maybe 4 to 5 metalheads after sweaty gigs, long hair, black t-shirt, smelling of grime, would walk out and just stand in the line and serve themselves food. And it was very funny. So I guess that was our back in the day side hustle, which is still going on in NIT Kurukshetra. NIT Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right.
Love that.
We must wrap this up. Before that, Miss Priyanka Paul, please do another poetry piece for us.
I fucking hate toilets and bathrooms, rooms of cleansing, so also churches and temples, because both are places we break down at alone, and no one fucking listens. So I guess maybe that's why we go there. We go to these rooms of cleansing to cleanse ourselves of ourselves and others. I've screamed in toilets. I've screamed in churches internally. My voice always echoes. Water, holy or not, lies there. What can water do? Wash the blood off my arm? This shit still burns. They use this water to baptize people. So they'll slam dunk you in. This is the first instance of the world choking you and telling you to shut up. We're all drowning. I fucking hate toilets and churches and temples. People always sing there. We're always waiting for the arrival of someone. God. A knock on the door. Oh, and churches and toilets? Someone's always puking. Words or human waste. Sometimes someone flushes, but the rest of the times it'll reek and you'll call it the norm. That's what they call the Holy Covenant. An agreement that all bullshit stays in here. Some people even wrote a book about it in church. I wrote shit angsty poetry under the toilet sink. But you know why I absolutely hate toilets in churches? Sometimes you slip and fall in there, and then you never learn to get up and walk out. The next verse uttered then is, may your soul rest in peace, and that doesn't echo.
And we always are looking for talented talents. And where can we find them, Krupa? How do we find them, Krupa? Tell it to them.
So we have our open mics happening across cities, happening in cities across the country. We've got one in Mumbai, Delhi, Shillong, Bangalore, Pune. And if you're not from any of these cities, you can always hit us up on atkt.in/shortlist. Upload your videos, your poetry, and yeah, we'd love to talk to you.
You mean we'll get them here and speak to them?
Why
like
not?
how we spoke to Priyanka?
Why not, man?
What are you waiting for? Log in on atkt.in or check out on Facebook and Instagram for our talent tent and register. See you next week.